All right, welcome. Today, we are going to break down a professional level tool that can absolutely be a game changer for your swing trading. We're talking about the deliberate hedge. And trust me, it's a concept that helps you sidestep one of the most painful things that can happen when you're trading.
So let me just ask you, have you ever been in this spot? You did all the research, you found a stock you were sure was a winner, everything looked perfect. And then, out of nowhere, the whole market tanks and drags your great trade down with it. Ugh, it's the worst feeling, right? Well, that's the exact problem we're going to tackle today.
You see, the whole issue really boils down to two totally different kinds of risk. Over on the left, you've got the risk that your trade idea is just wrong. It happens. For that, a simple stop loss works perfectly. But then there's the risk on the right. That's when the entire market gets slammed and suddenly all of your positions, even the good ones, start dropping at the same time. And that second kind of risk, that big market-wide drop, is exactly why we need to start thinking beyond just the stop loss. I mean, look, stop losses are essential. You gotta use them. But you have to understand that they're a reactive emergency brake for just one single position. Think about it. When the whole market is in a free fall, what actually happens? Pop, pop, pop. All your stop losses start hitting one after another. That's not a strategy, my friend. That's just a chaotic, stressful fire sale. You're basically being forced to dump your best ideas right at the bottom. So, how do we get out of that mess? How do we avoid that chaotic liquidation? Well, this is where hedging comes into play. You need to start thinking of it as a proactive shield for your entire portfolio, not just some last-second defense for one trade. So what is it? It's actually pretty simple. A hedge is just taking an opposite position to protect the ones you already have. It's less about making an other bet to try to make more money, and way more like buying an insurance policy for your portfolio when you think a storm might be coming.
Here's a really easy way to visualize the difference. A stop loss, it's like an airbag in your car. It is absolutely critical, an amazing safety feature, but it only goes off after you've already crashed.
A hedge, though, a hedge is like the air traffic controller. It sees the whole sky, the big picture. It manages the risk for the entire system, your whole portfolio, and its job is to prevent that catastrophic pileup from ever happening in the first place. But honestly, there's a hidden benefit here that might be even more important than the money, and that's preserving your mental capital. When you have a hedge on, it dramatically reduces that gut-wrenching stress. It stops you from making those emotional, panic-driven decisions, and it gives you the mental space you need to think clearly when everyone else is freaking out. Okay, so the concept is cool, but how do we actually do it? Let's get into the practical side of this, because it's not that complicated. It really just boils down to a simple two-step process. First, you've got to know exactly what risk you're worried about. And second, you just pick the right tool, the right shield for that specific threat. So what kind of risks are we talking about? Well, first, there's that broad systemic risk. You know, that feeling when the whole market just feels heavy, like it could roll over at any second. Or it could be a very specific event on the calendar, a big inflation report, a Fed meeting, or a key earnings announcement. And sometimes you just look at your own portfolio and realize, whoa, I have way too much exposure to just one thing, like tech stocks. And once you know the risk, you pick your shield. Now, we're going to keep it simple here. For most of us, the most straightforward, beginner-friendly tools are things like buying put options on the big index ETFs, like the SPY for the S&P 500 or the QQQ for the NASDAQ. Or you could use what are called inverse ETFs, which are literally designed to go up when the market goes down. All right, theory's one thing, but let's see how this plays out in the real world. Let's run through a quick example to make this super clear. Okay, so just imagine this scenario. You own 200 shares of a hot tech stock you bought at 150. It's been a great trade. You have a $30,000 position. But earnings are coming up in just 3 days. And we all know earnings can be a total coin toss, even for a fantastic company. So what do? You decide to hedge. You buy 2 put option contracts that give you the right to sell your shares at 135. The total cost for this protection, your insurance premium, is a known fixed amount, $500. Now, check this out. This is the real power of it. Let's say earnings are a disaster and the stock craters to 120, a brutal $6,000 loss on your stock. But your hedge, those puts, they just shot up in value, giving you a $3,000 gain. It cuts your total loss almost in half. But what if the stock has a great report and rallies to 175? Fantastic, you make $5,000. The only thing you give up is that $500 cost of the hedge. You see that? You create a situation where your upside is still huge, but your downside is capped and controlled.
This gets us to a really, really important point. This protection isn't free. You've got to think of hedging as a strategic cost of doing business. In our example, that price was $500. And I want you to reframe how you think about that. That $500 wasn't a losing trade. It was the known, specific price you paid to protect a $30,000 asset from a completely unknown, potentially massive loss. This quote just nails the whole mindset. It really is a strategic choice. You're accepting a small, definite cost to protect yourself against a huge, uncertain loss. I mean, when you put it like that, it's a pretty smart trade-off, isn't it? Now, let's be totally honest here. It's not a magic bullet. There are trade-offs. If the market just keeps ripping higher and higher, your hedges are going to feel like a drag on your performance. And sometimes the hedge you pick won't move perfectly in line with your portfolio. That's why you have to drill this into your head. It's insurance. It is not a profit center. So when you start adding this to your toolkit, it's not just about learning one more strategy. It's a fundamental upgrade to your whole approach. It's that moment you go from just being a stock picker to being a real portfolio manager.
All right, so let's lock in the big ideas. Number one, this is all about a mindset shift. You're not just managing individual trades anymore, you're protecting a portfolio. Number two, hedging is for those big, scary market-wide risks, and it works with your stop losses. It doesn't replace them. And number three, and this is crucial, you measure the success of a hedge not by whether it made money, but by the catastrophic loss it helped you avoid. Look, getting this concept is a huge step forward in your journey as a trader. So the next time the market feels shaky and uncertain, I want you to ask yourself a totally different question. Instead of thinking, what should I sell? Start asking, how can I protect what I already have? Now, if you want to go even deeper on this and explore more practical insights, I really recommend you go check out stockoMJ.ai. Thanks for watching.